Hello, everybody. My name is Jedi Knight Destrea. I'm here to kind of host the review of the Jedi Gathering. So, for those of you are curious about it or want to know what it was like, we have invited back the guests that were at this 2024 Jedi Gathering in what, Georgia?
Ackworth, Georgia.
Thank
Ackworth,
you.
Georgia.
Ackworth, Georgia. It was a beautiful location. It was one that was easily accessible this time. All the previous locations have been very beautiful, but some of them have been challenging to get to. We talk about the Jedi trials all the time, and number one is getting to the place. We'll probably talk about a little bit more what the other Jedi trials are a little bit later. But the first one's always getting there, but it's always worth it. It's always worth making the trek to see the other fellow Jedi. Right before we started having this conversation, we were just talking about the little nuances that a lot of people don't get to see in advertising for it. But it is these connections because we have seen each other, or we do get together about once a year. We do also get to see how we grow and develop on the Jedi path. So I would like to open the floor so we can continue having this conversation, and then we can go into the different nuances of what it was like, what did we do. But I really want to hear from you guys, like we were just explaining, what you guys see in each other when we grow, or as a community. What is your perspective? Is there anybody that would like to go first?
Well, I know you mentioned the trial of arrival, and there was that still. If you didn't have the code, you weren't getting there. We got right up to the gate. Okay, where is it? Oh, wait, this is a private place. Okay, Gabe?
Yeah, so this year's location was at a retired Girl Scouts location. So it was different that where in this case we were sharing bunk beds with each other. Each one had a little pod, and each one had its own little dynamic. Um, and at previous ones, usually there's rooms. So this was a little different. I can't really complain about it though. I think eventually once everybody got settled, there was a good flow going on. But those that was interesting this year.
I found it interesting because I come from both military and scouting backgrounds, so it was just kind of like being at camp for me.
Oh, I've never been at camp, but I felt like this would be it. Like, oh, like this would be close enough. But I always wanted to be like at a camp event.
Yes, it is. It's very much like for me going to Boy Scout camp. If we went to summer camp for a week or 2 weeks, we slept in tents usually for that. But again, it has that camaraderie and togetherness that you would have with your fellow troop members
Yeah.
and all.
I was so glad you were able to come this year, Dan. I know in the past it's been a little challenging. So we were just saying that I'm so glad you were able to make it.
Oh yeah, I knew I wasn't going to miss this one because I also have family down in Georgia, so I actually stopped down there the night before and visited with them for a short bit, and next day I came over to the gathering right from there, and afterwards went right back over there and had a great time visiting with my brother and my daughter.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad you guys spent some time with them. Go ahead, Tabitha.
For me, this gathering that the or living situation was difficult. Um, there was a lot behind that, which I won't necessarily go into due to it'd be a long story, but because of like stuff, I was like in boarding school and different things. So it was interesting for me. But after quieting down and everything, it was fine, and it was kind of nice because I had a lot of the kids and the girls of Maggie's daughter Emily and mine really hit it off very
They were
well,
like
and
peas in a
so
pod for sure.
yeah, and that was kind of the most adorable thing ever. So just having that in the room and just trying to go to sleep while they're sitting there munching on chips, I was like, I could yell at them or I could just let them be. Because I remember when I was a kid, even just literally moving in bed. If I was in bed with my mom or something, she'd be like, "Will you shut the up?" And so I was like, "Nope, they're going to do their thing. They're going to sleep in bed together. They're going to watch their movies, whatever. They can do their thing, and I'm just going to try to go to sleep
Yeah, I
because this
learned
is a
in
weekend."
I learned in one of the gatherings to bring my own earplugs just in case.
Yeah, I did too.
We get a lot
It,
of loud snorers sometimes. So
yeah,
It
luckily I
didn't.
don't think we had that problem.
It did make me
Uh,
laugh because all of a sudden I look over and Emily's in bed with Lacey, and I was like, okay, I guess this is happening now. So that part was funny.
I did well. They said that
uh,
everybody else said it was okay if I was okay with it, and I was like, I'm okay with it. I don't care. You guys,
yeah,
kids, whatever.
I loved it. They came into the kitchen.
Yeah.
They got a whole bunch of snacks. They were like stuffing
Yep.
stuff into their
Oh,
shirt.
yep.
They
Dude,
were
yes,
just
Did
we
it?
grabbing
all
a
Did it
did
bunch.
like
last
that
night.
when we were kids. We all wanted to have that night as kids. We did.
We
And
did
then the
it
funny
last
thing
night.
is
Three
her brother
full.
is just right there playing on his Switch. And then they're like, "Do you want some chips?" He's like, "Yeah." So they get down and walk over and give him some chips.
Uh, no, I really love the youth being present this year. It was so beautiful to see them interacting and then just being with us and enjoying themselves. And I love the connections that they made themselves. Lacey was one of the people that was recognized this year as somebody who made a difference in us. In the at the gathering this year, we did do what do we call it? An acknowledgement um, raffle or gifting.
It was acknowledgement gifts. Yes, I guess I don't think we had an
We
actual
didn't
term
have
for
a
it.
term for it, but this year's
I thought of it as like a gratitude box. Like you were
yeah.
writing notes that you were grateful for seeing somebody doing something. That's how I associated it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this year's theme
Yeah.
was building community. So we thought
Mhm.
that having each other state what we see, because Ali made a good point, is that we can't be everywhere at once. There's beautiful little moments occurring simultaneously, and you can't see everything. And that's what we were just talking about, these little intricacies of people and how you see them grow and how you see them interacting and how they make differences. And sometimes it's in these little minute times where like maybe somebody was able to do something small, maybe to them, but to you was something big. And it's just these little things that we just can't keep track of. So I was really glad that people use the comment box to be able to share some of those experiences. And just Ali, like was saying right before this recording, that we did email those out for those people that got something. Everybody pretty much got a little bit of something because you are all amazing. Um, but Ali has her hand raised. Go ahead, Ali. Or something you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I kind of want to go back to that trial of arrival. So like Sophia and I were really experiencing this. I get in the car. I took a photo of my back seat and I sent it to the committee. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get somebody in this vehicle? Because I got to pick them up from the airport. Or I called up Sasha. I was like, Sasha, you're in the state. You're in the state. I really need help because I don't have anywhere to put this stuff. And Sasha's like, well, I wasn't going to leave till like 11. I was like, she gets in at 10. So we're sitting there trying to figure out logistically. And she's like, well, how far are you? Can you get to this place? And I'm like, I'm past any intersection to get over there. And so we just talked it through. And then I got close to Kennesaw because that's where we were going to meet up, was Kennesaw. So I could unload some of my stuff and go back to Atlanta Airport to pick up Lauren. And I start seeing on my phone, I see Lauren, like, but I'm driving, so I can't even respond to her. I see Lauren saying, hey, I just got off the plane. Oh, no, I can't. I'm trying to get to baggage claim. And I'm like, oh, no, she's going to be there forever. I told her I'd be there. So I'm like calling up Sophia. Sophia doesn't pick up the phone. And I'm like, no, what is going to happen? Sophia calls me up and is like, hey, and I'm sitting there just the whole time thinking, I just need you to go there and stay with her at because I know you got to pick up somebody else. I just need you to stay there with her at like a restaurant or something, so that's in the airport, and then I'll be there to pick her up. But she just don't leave her alone. And then and Sophia's like, so the person I was going to pick up at 12:45, yeah, he missed the plane. And I'm like, what?
I'm still sad that Alex
I
wasn't
know
able to come.
it was so sad because I really wanted to attend that workshop.
Yes. Oh, so for everybody that is here, and I guess for future people who watch this, we are going to be hosting an online class. Alex Bird still does want to present, but it'll be an online forum, and we'll be advertising when that comes up. But that way we don't get to miss it per se. But
I'm so looking forward to that. So it ends up Sophia's able to go and pick up Lauren for me. And I'm sitting there and I get out to Sasha and I was like, oh, hi, Sasha. Thank you so much for coming out to my rescue. And it looks like now it's available, or like now I don't have to pick her up. But Sasha was so cool about it. So we get out and we're like looking, and Sasha helped me figure out, like, we went to one store, I think it was like a Publix. And then we were like, okay, so Publix, I don't even remember what we bought at Publix. We got something. And then we looked at the map and we're like, oh, okay, so now we need to go to Ingles. And Sasha was so cool because I'm not a produce. I have some issues with produce. I don't eat a lot of it.
Okay.
Like, I really need to eat more produce. So I don't eat a lot of it. So I don't really know, like, how firm it needs to be or whatever. So Sasha helped me with like getting the fruit, getting the vegetables and all that stuff, and like help me.
I feel like Sophia is shaking her head at you right now, like, girl, come on, you need to be eating that fruit. You need to be eating them veggies. Come on, girl.
What do you mean you have a problem with
I have this kind of fruit. I have this kind of fruit. Tomato is fruit.
Thank you, Sasha, on the selection. It was delicious.
Yes, thank you, Sasha.
Well, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. There are perks to working in a grocery store.
So it was so helpful to have Sasha there, like helping me get a fair amount of the food, but I couldn't get the meat yet. So I got Sophia sitting there like, hey, what's the code? Because I need to get out to go get Karina. And I'm like, we can't get in yet. That's why I told you to meet me at this spot. So we get everything over there. We end up like downloading a bunch of stuff out of Sophia's vehicle so that we could transport it when they opened up the gates for us to get in. We get told, okay, so you can come in an hour early. So Sasha and I loaded up everybody into the car. We got all the stuff in the car. We get in, and this great omen happened. We get in, we drive around, and there are these beautiful deer. And then we got up there, and the first thing I did was I sent Gabe a message. No, actually, after I got the key, I sent Gabe a message. I was like, Gabe, you're going to love it. You're going to adore this. I said, there's deer here. And Gabe comes back. He goes, I just saw them. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's here. This is great. We're all here. So, we'll get everything out of the car. So we get everything out of the car. And then first time I ever meet Church and Cy. They're awesome. And I was like, hey, who wants to go back to Ingles with me to go get the rest of the food? And Cy's like, I'll go with you. Here's this woman. She's never met me before. I'm just asking who wants to come with me. And she took that step and got out there with me. Somewhere along the way, like, she was very helpful too. Because again, I usually only cook for one person. There are some things that I was cooking this year that I didn't really know a lot about. I had easy recipes, but like, I didn't know what kind of meat I needed to get. I didn't think about marinating that meat. She was the one that gave me all these ideas. And I'm like, oh, score. So like, we're all sitting there, and then we had to spread out, and I was like, go find these things while I go find these. And we went all spread out, got 2 carts, and we get back, we're looking at it, and we're like, where's Sophia? Because Sophia was supposed to cook the food because she wanted to get some video. And I'm like, well, you know what? She's not here. Y'all are getting hungry. I don't know what we're just going to cook it. We're just going to go with it. So that trial of arrival involved like all of this stuff on our side of it, but it all came together perfectly. And I think we were maybe 30 minutes off from when we were supposed to eat. We were close. That's closer than I've ever been on the first night for one of my gatherings.
Yes, we did get a curveball thrown at us from Ross not being able to attend this year because he got COVID. But he
Yeah.
had a whole plan of
He did.
different things that he wanted to make. He wanted to make the food a full experience. I know he had big plans for it, so got sad. But I love the menu. Ellie, if you wanted to talk about the menu and where that came from, I know you just released that.
I did. There's like an entire blog post that talks about like kind of the thoughts that went into certain items. I don't know how I scrambled around to get as many thoughts as I could in there, but like there was a throwback from the 2013 gathering, pulled out my Game of Thrones book. Like I bought that for the 2013 gathering and I haven't used it since.
So you cooked
I
these
apologize
from the 2013 gathering?
The same ones that I had from the 2013 gathering I didn't use, but I did use the book.
Oh,
and then I actually, before Ross told me, I went out and I thought, I'm going to get a Star Wars cookbook to add to one of the gift prizes that I had. Because I sat there and I looked at it. I was like, it needs one more thing. So I saw this book and I got myself a copy too. This book. It's called Star Wars Every Day. So Dan actually is the one that got this book. And I took two of the recipes out of here. Then like I went and I got the rest of them online. But like the idea was y'all are coming to the South. Yes, I did use y'all. Y'all are coming to the South. Y'all gonna have some Southern food. So I came up with some like both breakfasts were Southern food inspired. The barbecue, definitely Southern food inspired.
And that was the first time I ever had grits, and I liked it.
Oh, really? Yeah, the grits were amazing. Yeah, and I had actually got those at I got them at a Franklin market, farmer's market. That's the word. A farmer's market every weekend. And that farmer's market is actually about to get moved somewhere, but they almost died. They were a really good farmer's market. So like I was there and I was helping. I even donated a little bit of money to help them build their own space somewhere else. It was really good, but like I was there and I saw grits and I was like, oh, maybe we can do grits. I had even talked with Ross about it. And
I haven't had grits either, Dijavon. Sorry.
That's Sophia.
But they were not bad. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading it off. I
needed to change her name.
So stupid. I was just reading it. I just wanted to mention, I wish that somebody would have told me that there were two different styles until after I ate them, because I had the thick stuff, and that's what I think I didn't like it. Because when I have the cream of wheat and all of that, any oatmeal, it's got to be thin for me. I can't have it thick. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to have to try it thin, because if I like it thin, I will report back to you, because I probably will like it.
No, you're good. But yeah, so like we had some southern dishes. We had grits, a grits bar one day. Y'all should have had that shrimp. I don't feel like anybody did a shrimp and grits. That's a southern staple.
No.
Okay.
I made sure to do that. And in fact, what I did is I took a scoop of the thick one and a scoop of the thin grits and made it into the medium.
Yeah, I made
it. Like that was me. Yeah. And I added some of the peppers from my garden. And so it had that little kick to it. So like, yeah, it was delicious. I love grits. I was so glad to see that.
The Florida girl was like shrimp and grits. I was doing a little happy dance.
Yeah.
So
I still say we all should have gone to the Waffle House on Sunday.
Dude, I was tempted. My son that night was like, are we going to the Waffle House at 3 a.m.? He's 11.
So then one of the mornings we actually had biscuits and gravy with turkey sausage gravy, because I don't eat pork. So that's why it was turkey
so that
sausage.
Was turkey? I didn't know
turkey.
That. It was so much better than normal.
So
turkey sausage is choice. Oh, yeah. I love turkey sausage. Turkey bacon, no way, but sausage, that's where it's at.
Okay, I'm gonna have to test that, because biscuits and gravy is literally my comfort food. I grew up on that, and I was like, why is this one so much better?
So I will say, let me correct that, because Maggie couldn't find turkey sausage. That's right. She actually got Italian turkey.
It was Italian turkey.
It was delicious.
So that was really good, and I loved it. And you know what? I will say that there was, and then like we had the taco night, the one night, because it was just simple. It was easy. By that point, we had so much stuff cooked. It's just like, okay, so now just throw it out there. So we took like the extra barbecue and whatnot, and I'll put it all out there, and everybody got to have like whatever kind of tacos they wanted. Oh yeah, and then this evil guy right here brought some Star Wars cookies.
Oh yeah, Allie was trying to eat healthy, and Oreos are her weakness, so she was very upset. There's a bunch of Oreos to tempt her. You were good though.
Yeah,
and every time a container was finished, another one appeared.
It was like the never-ending source of Oreo cookies.
Like, he comes out, he brings out this box.
I'm pretty sure Lacey went home with like 3 packages of those in her suitcase.
Emily too. And the funny thing is she busts one out of her backpack, and I'm like, where did you get that? She goes, oh, I snagged one. And she gave it to Amy. She's like, you're Miss Amy. And we dropped her off. And I was like, oh, that was kind of sweet.
That's so sweet. I will say this, Dan, in your defense, I just found out that after my 2 months of on my diet and my workout, I have lost 16 pounds.
Awesome.
So,
great job, Allie.
I will take that you brought that as my winning compliment.
Actually, Dan, I'm really glad you brought them, because I've been looking for them. I couldn't find them anywhere. So it was kind of neat to be at the Jedi gathering, and there were the Star Wars cookies. So I'm actually really glad you did bring them. They were kind of fun.
Yeah, Dan and I actually did an experiment where we tried to figure out if we could guess the colors. We were pretty good. It was like, okay, this is going to be dark side. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Didn't somebody get one that was like a mixture?
Oh, well, Dan played a little trick on us, because
when he mixed them together.
What I should have done is I should have taken out one whole roll of the one color that I did and put in the other roll, and other color in that row, and then the middle row did what I did is double stuffed them with the red and blue together.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like, oh, there's a
you're the chosen one.
You're the chosen one.
Everyone was the chosen one.
I picked them up over the period of about a month. They were on sale at different stores, and I'm in stores all the time. I figured, why not?
Yeah, no, I
for Star Wars, it's only pretty much a one-shot deal.
I thought they were delicious. I enjoyed the food at Allie. Thank you so much, and for everybody who really participated to help in the kitchen. There was a bunch of people that were volunteering to help cook, to help clean, and so just very appreciative for all the people that were there, and for the people that helped Allie to try to organize that last couple of days. I didn't know that so much of it had been planned, even if it was such short notice.
I make a huge shout out really quick.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for everyone that helped me in that kitchen. I know he's not here because I know that they don't like pomp, but for the person who was really there helping like the whole time, I know you didn't have to. Thank you so much.
I just want to interrupt. Huge shout out, not related to the kitchen. Okay, just off the top of my head, I don't know who all is here, but I think Claire and Sophia and Maggie, all of the moms who helped out with the kids when the other parent wasn't around, like it was their own kids, like loved that. Mm-hmm. But huge shout out to Maggie when I wasn't present for a bit and Lacey was having her panic attack, and Maggie just stepped right on in with Pete and just took over like it was her own baby. And I just gotta say, like, that even more like just shows me about, community and our people. Like, so like there's a quote I wanted to use from Ahsoka Tano. Like, she says, I don't remember when it was, but when I was out there alone, all I had was your training and the lessons that you taught me. And because of you, I did survive. And not only that, I was able to lead others to survive as well. So in that moment, Lacey learned that it doesn't matter whose mom is there. But a mom, if they sees a child in distress, they're going to be there for her. They're going to show her how to get through it. And then she's going to use that to help either her friends or other people later in life. And that is literally part of the Jedi mind. Like, that's just, so that's my biggest gratitude for the gathering, was to see how much the community is a family, and it's not just us adults, but we see our children as each other's children, and it's unconscious. It is. So thank you. That is my thing. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, thank you so much for bringing that up. Because I think it is those, like we were just saying earlier, is those interactions. Because it takes community, and I'm so glad that Maggie was able to step in. I think she wants something. She wants to say something. Go ahead.
I love kids, and yeah, I mean, if I see an upset kid, I'm obviously gonna go over and Lacey's such a sweetheart. I felt so bad for her. She was really struggling with some pretty big emotions, and I think we've all felt that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna just let her sit there and cry. I'm gonna try to help her out. So thank you for the acknowledgement. It kind of makes me happy to know that you saw it as mom looking after kids, because I feel like any parent would have done that even for my own. So I kind of don't think it's a big deal, but I often see it as being a big deal. If that makes any sense. So thanks for the kudos. I really do appreciate it.
I think it is a big deal and something that needs to be spoken, because I've had too many times where I have felt the need to approach children out in the world, and I've gotten backlash from parents. I think sometimes us as parents need to remember there are others out there that appreciate that stepping in when they're not around, and that it's not like, oh, we need to micromanage our child and how dare you be there and try to, impression your point of view on them, blah, blah, blah. Because I've had those kind of things happen, in a grocery store when a child was hitting my child, and I'm like, please don't do that. You cannot hit my child. And then the mother's like, you can't discipline my child. That's my job. And I'm like, I'm not disciplining your child. I'm asking your child to stop hurting mine and whatever. So, and just walk away. For me, sometimes it's hard to approach children because I'm afraid of what a mother might say. And so seeing that you just did that reinforces the feeling of community inside me, to be sure that if that child needs something, it doesn't matter what the parent, it doesn't matter what anything else is going on. It's the child that matters and what they need.
While we're on that topic, I just wanted to give out a shout out to all the parents too, that you have been doing a great job at parenting. Because one of the things that will always stick with me is when one of the adults, also another parent, was just being very courageous and allowing herself to be vulnerable and sharing about her past, her history. It just moved her to tears. And right at that moment, all the children came in and gave a hug. And that just spoke to me. It's like, this is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
We really are a family, and it doesn't matter how old you are or who you are, that we're here for each other. And the fact that it's continuing on with this next generation, as a teacher, it fills me with a lot of hope that the world is going to be better. I just wanted to make sure that was put out there.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true.
that was such a beautiful.
It was really beautiful to see the children respond in that way.
Before we get off the subject of the gratitude, I'd like to give recognition to all of our council members that ran the event who weren't eligible for this. And I didn't even think of it to put in an attaboy for you guys into the suggestion box throughout the whole weekend. You guys did a phenomenal job bringing this together. As Jedi, we're nothing but flexible and able to adapt to the situation. And you guys did an awesome job this weekend. There was very little in the way of drama. It came together despite everything that was working against us. Really a big hand to put on such a great weekend.
Thanks, Dan. I think it goes without saying it was all a team effort. We all did a little part on everything for it to come together, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you so much, because the minimal drama is part of the trials of the gathering, trials of the gathering. But And I think it's just part of it when you get together with a bunch of people who are invested in their growth. And when they allow themselves to be vulnerable, there's some tough conversations that come up. And I think this year, some of the workshops that we did allowed us to come together. And when you start creating these like connections, when you spend time with your fellow Jedi or people, you start to allow yourself to be seen and be vulnerable. And I gotta tell you, I got to be a part of so many vulnerable conversations. So thankful for the people that allowed me to be in their space to talk and share emotions. I think that's what allows us to continue to grow every year when we get together, having these difficult and honest conversations. I don't know if anybody wanted to talk about any of the workshops that maybe resonated with them, that they took something from. I would love to hear what you guys thought about the workshops.
Well, I'll speak up on that. I thought all the workshops were great. I mean, realistic situations. Allie brought one to the table that was realistic. Then the elevator, explain the force while you ride down the elevator.
The elevator
That
pitch.
that was another excellent one. They were all great, but I have to say, for me, one of my most favorite things was the conversations I had. I spoke with almost everybody who was there, and I was able to do it on a one-on-one basis one time or another. Talk about being vulnerable and transparent. We felt comfortable enough to share things that we normally wouldn't share with other people or whatever. I felt very at home there when we were all together, and it was the people, because every time I've gone to a Jedi gathering, I felt that way. It was just as fulfilling or more than my next little spiritual sabbatical up in Cherokee coming up in September. Like I could feel the presence of everybody at different times. Like after I got home for probably the next 3 days, if I'm doing something crafty, like fixing something, I start thinking about Dan, and I feel like I am Dan with my hair sticking up. Or if I can't really put it into words, it's just at different times I feel different people's presence with me when I'm doing something that reminds me of them, and it's like I'm feeling their spirit on me. It was hard for me to wean off of, but it took about 3 days, and then the situation with my brother kind of took hold. But I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I'm so grateful that you feel that way, because I've often said too that the workshops are great. I love work doing them, but it's really the conversations that happen afterwards, the ones where we allow ourselves to have like one-on-one conversations, the ones we have by the fire. We talked a little bit about that. I'm glad that you were able to find and feel community. I'm so glad to have you be a part of it.
For me, I have two things. My favorite workshop, Sophia's. I actually had a lot of fun.
Makai's too. Makai loved that.
I had a lot of fun doing that, and it was really cool learning, because we had Tatiana on our group, and she like got us all to do. She's like, "Okay, put it on your hand," and then like, and oh yeah, it was so much fun. And then like when we had to switch groups, we were like, "No, we had a system. Like we all got like, come on!" But I think that really added to the understanding of the message from that class. But that was really fun, and I kind of wanted to do it again before leaving. And I'm like, I'm probably gonna try to do that with like some family event. That'd be kind of cool, because it's a good community and team building thing, but it's also fun, and it gets people to laugh and gets people to move, but it's not too much movement, and it was great. And then my second one is the pool. So I believe Matthew and Dan and Tatiana and Claire all deserve kudos for that. Why? Because our son, he's been going through a very hard year, and so he doesn't really do anything except for stay alone in bed or in his room. And so having something or someone that he wanted to go out and spend time with and enjoy himself, and like putting that ginormous smile on that cute little face of his, that was also my favorite thing, because most of that I wasn't even there for any of that, and he was out there with other people, and he felt safe. He felt like he could be himself. He didn't think he could, have to worry about being judged. He just had himself this little time. So that's my favorite stuff for that.
Yeah, I was out there with the pool, and he was so cute. There was like a little puppy out there, and he was petting the
Aww.
puppy. and he was having best time with other kids out there. It was really nice to see him enjoy himself too.
Awesome. Like, I love that you picked out Sophia's, because let me tell you, that's actually what inspired the entirety of this particular gathering. So there we are, a year prior, we had just left the gathering. Sophia leaves her daughter over at Clemson University for a summer camp, her and Claire. And the next week, I was like, hey, I would love to see you guys. So I went down there. And while we're there, Sophia's like, we should do this team building thing. Like, we should have a gathering around team building. And I want to do, and she described to me this hula hoop thing. And I was like, that's amazing. I love this idea. If we get a location for it, I also kind of want to do some whitewater rafting. That part didn't happen. We didn't get the whitewater rafting. But we did get the canoeing. So yay, we got the canoeing. I got Gabe out on the water. I love you.
I really wish I'd gotten out on the water canoeing.
Oh, it would have been great.
The canoeing
but
was
yeah,
fun.
legit, it was. Yeah, well, you got to go kayaking. That was really fun. I was so jealous of you and Tatiana. You have no idea how jealous I was of you two. I would have swam with you. I would have swam with you if it wasn't for the fact that I was looking at we need to find where this beach is. Otherwise, I would have been out there.
You were literally right there.
I know. That's what I was like, are you kidding me right now? It's right here.
See,
we could have just hung out.
You just should have.
Yeah, I should have just hung out.
Ultimately, team Matt and Church, and I forgot Church's wife's name.
Sorry.
We had the best time of all because we tipped over into the water. Yeah.
And I don't know about you all, mine was terrible. I got stung by a bee or something right on my bum. So like the entire ride, I was like sitting there on like my right butt cheek, and then poor Maggie had to first aid me, and then poor Sophia like walks in, and I'm like, "Don't come in here, my butt's out," in the kitchen, and she's like, not even questioning it. And then as she's walking out, like, wait a second, why is there butt out in the kitchen?
She didn't even really react, though. That was the funny part. She's like, okay, I guess this is happening.
So, just like after the apple cider vinegar was, that actually worked really well.
I'm behind you putting vinegar on it to help take the sting out. Sophia walks in and she's just like, I guess this is happening now. That was the best part about that.
So this whole gathering was inspired by Sophia's idea for a workshop. Legit. I'm glad that it was like the first one that we did after the first night. Actually, I kind of, Karina, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to see, like, instead of just everybody saying what their favorite was, I would love to see, like, if we go through all of them and then just see how people responded to each of them, like the tea ceremony and whatnot. If you think we have time,
like go through each workshop.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to call it out, and we can talk about each one, and then everybody can make a comment.
Okay, that'll work. Since I've got it right here on my nifty little.
Oh yes, Allie made some little books with the schedule on it.
Gabe's family actually got it printed up. They donated money into it. So the first one, even though it's not really listed on here, was tea ceremony.
That tea was really good.
Much better. I think it was much smoother than last year's.
Much smoother than last year.
I enjoyed the tea ceremony a lot. I liked last year's too, but this one was a lot more organized. The only critique I would have is that it was really late at night, and I think people were just kind of tired at that point. But other than that, it was very nice, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a little bit more of the different elements?
So a real quick rundown. We have 4 keepers. One is for water, one is for fire, one is for air, and one is for earth. We last minute decided that we were going to use the 4 quarters for the Peruvian style, since Gabe looked at me, is like, do you want traditional or you want Peruvian? I was like, well, since you're the one running it, let's go Peruvian. So he came up with the different ones. I learned that theirs is very different. Apparently water is still west, but earth and fire and like all those get or weird. So yeah. I don't know where they came from, but okay. Well, actually, no, he did explain it to me. But we'll do that later. So we ended up using the 4 quarters in a circle around the fire. Gabe opened us up and kind of just brought together why it was important. The chant for the water keeper uses a chant over the water, which is inspired by Masaru Emoto and his work in Water Has Memory. I have tied that in the past to using the Force, or that's one way of using the Force in a very simplistic manner. Then the air is usually considered, so Aquarius is actually a water bearer and is an air element. So that's why we had Maggie, who was our air keeper, walking around with the water so that she could deliver it to the next person. And she was also the one, she bore the tea, said, "May the Force be with you" at the end. And that is a Jedi element piece to it. Gabe, being our fire keeper, started talking a little bit more about why fire was valuable, put the tea into the fire, like literally had a fire there, which is what we had hoped last year, but it didn't work out because of the rain and other complications with the particular way we ended up using fire last year. Last year was a rough, like the first time we had ever done it. So now that we had seen it in practice, we were able to do a little bit better. So then it goes to earth, and that was Sasha who actually opens up the tea, lets it steep. Sasha, Ross, and I were actually the originators of this ceremony. We were the ones that kind of came up with how it should be done. And Sasha was always planned to be our earth because Sasha's great with tea. I don't know if y'all know this, but Sasha's great with tea. First gathering Sasha came to was North Carolina, and it was great watching them do like it was a Korean tea ceremony, right, Sasha?
Chinese Gong Fu tea.
So yeah, and it was beautiful. So those are the different keepers. Gabe, this was your first time, kind of like we had already done it before, but this was your first time, and like I foisted you into the position of fire keeper and master of ceremony like last minute.
Yes, however, being a master mystic now, like ceremonies are like my bread and butter. So it's like throw me in and it's fine. That's the only thing you can throw me into, though.
I think that would be my only critique too about the ceremonies is that I want to know the inner workings too, like what is going on. So maybe this could be a series of the explanation of the inner workings of it. But I think that would be my thing. I was like, okay, yeah, this is a cool ritual, but definitely there's still underlying things that are going on. And like you were just saying, the intricacies of how or which systems that you're using, because as mystics, you can use or work with whatever spiritual things that you are working with. It's not a specific thing. It's not just one religion based part of whatever your own spiritual
and also
practices.
Just listening to what the earth is saying, because I would have to say, like, the fact that the deer were there, like me being an earth element, the deer were a very good omen for me. However, that wasn't the only things there, because there was elements of all, because there were the salamanders that I saw scurrying around. There were the butterflies, and the water was right nearby. I even made sure to.
You saw one too. I saw a blue-tailed one.
Yeah,
and it scurried right over a rock. So it was a salamander.
Yes.
I was like, "What the heck is that thing? It's got blue tail."
Yeah, so that's why, like, the fact that I saw all the elements there, I'm like, okay, this is a good spot. And so whatever energy work that we did would make sure to be very potent. So I was just very glad and just made sure to listen and pay my respects to all the energies there.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, was there anything else
each
that
can
anybody?
carry its own energy.
Is there anything else that anybody want to mention about that, or should we just move on to the next one?
Well, next year, my plan. This year, we did a mixture for the tea of Yalpan, which is a Native American plant. It's the only plant native to North America that's caffeinated, and rooibos, which is from South Africa. And my goal, because I have several Yalpan holly bushes that I've been growing as bonsai for the past 2 years, and I'm about ready to start harvesting some leaves from them. So my goal for next year is to have some homegrown Yalpan holly that we'll be able to actually make the tea out of.
Very cool.
I do have a question with regards to that ceremony, because somebody brought to my attention that I surprised people when I started singing.
With how good you were?
Is that really, like, I was not looking, I was focused on that water, and it wasn't until Sophia told me, like, yeah, Saturday morning, somewhere in there. And she was just like, you should sing. And I'm like, what do you mean I should sing this? I was like, what do you mean? And she looks at me and she goes, nobody knew you could sing. I was like, what are you talking about? No one knew I could sing. And like, it wasn't a real language, for the record. it was not a real language. It's called glossolalia. And my emotions come through with that. So just for the record, if you wanted me to replicate whatever it was I was saying, I have no idea what I was saying.
Wow.
But I wanted to know, did I really surprise people when I broke out singing?
Yeah, I didn't know you could sing.
Yeah, I didn't know you could sing. And I've been in like multiple courses throughout my life. And I was like, oh shit, Allie can sing. I had no idea. But it was awesome.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me at the forgiveness, ritual. How well you were singing. I didn't recognize it early on, but at that ceremony I did.
Yeah, the forgiveness.
Well, we'll get
ceremony.
to the forgiveness one later.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. All right. I was just curious. Okay. So we talked about looping through the forest. Did anybody want to add to that one? Sophia, I feel like you should tell us something about how you felt about it. Girl! Don't look like that.
Like I said, I knew we were in a rush, and I guess it worked out perfectly because I was like, yeah, well, you know what? Cut down the times of people getting to interact and like break the ice with each other, and that's a lot of what make a team name, because then you kind of force people who really don't know each other to talk to each other, and a lot of things that people tend to do. It's just human nature is. If you get told to go into a group, you're going to go with people more than people you don't know. And we don't realize sometimes we do that, but, we'll go with someone who has, similarities to us and ones who don't. But then by moving everyone around, it's like you have no choice but to work with people that you really don't know and that you may not have similarities with. And then, like I said, even in the end with having everyone, make their own team names, and then you felt like this, okay, like, this is my team. We're going to do this and we're going to win this. And then just have that taken from you. And, you're like, man, them over there. And then now it's like, instead of them over there, them are right next to you on both sides of you, and like that. Sometimes you have to, realize that you got to, let go of those things you've been holding on to, and that those thoughts you've been having, about separation, and be like, and see, those people over there aren't too different from you, and you probably are going to have to work with them at some point anyway. So it's all good. And yeah, it was just fun. And I think it really worked out, in my opinion, a lot better than I thought in my head it was going to work out. And everyone had more fun than I thought they would have. And I, again, never thought that there would be such showmanship put into the routine. So like that really threw me off, because like that, I just thought that was hilarious. And I'm like disappointed in that I did not, record any of that. I'm disappointed that I didn't record us all, and like when we did like the final one, the big loop. But I said, you know what, that's okay, because that's something that I will always take with me, even though it'll never be on camera, and that's fine. I was like, that is where it should be. It happened, and I know it happened. Yeah.
As someone whose core Jedi philosophy is about peeling back layers of personality and getting to the core of who we are, or you might say who we aren't, I really enjoyed the fluidity with which the groups were able to sort of coalesce and separate and come back together, because like for me, one of my biggest things is trying to peel back and figure out, well, who am I really, and what is just an act that I portray for others. And being able to just sort of be like, oh yeah, we're the blue strings. And then all of a sudden, well, nope, not that anymore. I got to figure out what I am now. I really liked that aspect of it.
I feel you're going to like my class if I get to teach it the next gathering based off of what you just said then. Because, I'm working on a thing about self-knowledge and, getting back to your roots. And one of the things that Yoda says is, with starting over, you must unlearn what you have learned.
That is definitely at our core. I definitely also appreciated that from Sophia's workshop. I liked that every time you kind of became like, okay, this is my little group now. It just gets broken off. I'm like, okay, now this is my new group. We're all still in one bigger group.
I was like, no. I love how Tatiana was able to step up and explain to us how we were supposed to get things going and moving forward, and everybody took direction from her. Because that, like, I said it at the end. I said one of the things that we learned is that even some of the youngest amongst us can still be leaders to adults, and that was a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much.
Your girl's awesome, and I wish she was here, Sophia. Oh, she could hear it.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. It was so good. I was like, yes, please.
I think that just goes along with, I can't remember who said it. Oh, was it Gabe? With how great of parents we are. Because look at how well Tatiana works with other individuals. For those who understand a little bit of attachment theory, that shows that she has a secure and safe attachment with her parentals, meaning that they do a good job taking care of her. And if not, she wouldn't be able to grow and become the individual that she is right now and be that person and like push herself out there and feel confident and brave and courageous to just, take charge and be a baddie, like, so I just want to toss that in there.
I can't do my hair like she can.
It's a skill to flip your hair.
It is definitely a skill.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't help that I have this headset on.
We had.
Okay, so then
go ahead. Because I think then the one after that, what was it?
Was choosing your Jedi path by creating your own Jedi code, and that was Peter's and Tabitha's.
Do you guys want to explain it a little bit or summarize it, and then we can kind of talk about it?
With the design of what we perceive is the code, the mantras, we forget to understand our own personal code or the code that we live by. So the thought behind the class was to remind us that these mantras, while helpful to keep us in line with our code, that's not necessarily the code itself. And so we wanted to, in building a mantra, identify things that we hold dear as code quality material, and then use that to build a mantra that we can remind ourselves of what our code is. So that was the goal behind it.
Nice. I know there's a couple ones that came out really good, right?
I think they were all pretty good. To tag on to what he was saying, is to also become mindful and conscious of what the code is and the mantra. I don't know how many people besides myself grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance and knew it word for word, but did you actually like get into it and understand the meaning behind it and what it means to you? So like that's kind of how I view it is yeah, there's the Jedi code. There's lots of Jedi codes, but have you introspectively looked at it, or are you just saying it consciously or unconsciously? Become mindful of what you're saying and what it means to you versus just it's a mantra that the Jedi use, and so that's what I use. That's another way I thought about it.
I really liked how you demonstrated, like, I think it was the military code. I can't remember which code it was, but you had the long
the Soldier's
version.
Creed.
You had the long version, and then you had a shorter version, and then you had like the mantra version. And you were talking about the difference between a code, a creed, and a mantra, and I really enjoyed that perspective on it because I had never thought about it that way before. And I've never really sort of 100% identified with any one of the codes, and so it was fun to sort of go in and create our own. But more so than that, I liked how you were able to sort of back it up and say, look, these are take the things that you believe, that's your code, turn it into a creed, and then break that down further into a mantra that's, easily repeatable and easy to say.
I loved that workshop. Of course, I also loved it because it's what Heartland Jedi did with the original codes. We had taken the original codes and we took each line and we reinterpreted them and put them into their own version. So to see that kind of brought as a concept to the gathering was really fun. I really did enjoy it. Another part that I really enjoyed was like how you could tell who all the soldiers were in the room when we were going over the Soldier's Creed, so that we could demonstrate to you the importance and value that a creed itself has. It really shapes our lives even today after we've left the service.
It's been 20 years I recited that, and I'm surprised I remembered as much of it as I did.
Right?
Yeah.
And like how we were able to hit each other's tempos when we were saying it. You could hear it all. It was really pretty beautiful. But then like to just be in our groups and ask, okay, how do you, what is something that you want to add in here? And I'm sure we all had different ways of looking at it. We like inserted two as a group, like what do we think really manifests in the path so that we can get this? And then it was funny that at least one of them got a name for the R2D2 because they came to me and they were like, can we use cuss words? And I looked out at the group that was outside. I looked at the group outside. And then I looked at the person who asked me and I said no. And then they came, I was like, so they're like, so we can bleep things out. I was like, yes, you can do that. And they came back in and they called it the R2D2 thing. And what's funny is, so, I mean, it was great because like we came together and we found ways to communicate our value set, and a lot of them aligned. Like we could see that we are all really kind of picking up on the same things about what this Jedi path is. And that to me was important.
I know I brought up also, like I come from a Boy Scouting background, and the oath and law were always one of those things that were very strong with us, repeating it every week at meetings, and that it became something I ingrained. And you'll find that between even that and the Soldier's Creed and the Jedi Code, the different Jedi codes, you'll find a lot of intersection between them all. That there are definitely certain values that are universal.
Yeah, I agree. The Wiccan Read as well.
Yeah, I agree because I'm also got a scouting background, scoutmaster, all that fun stuff. Also Army, former Army, and yeah, every creed and code that this community, believes, they're all very similar. I picked up on that too. I just think it's really neat how we all we say the same thing, but maybe a little different.
All right. So the next one is Karina's kindness as boundaries.
Boundaries as a kindness.
No, I wrote kindness as boundaries. You know what? There's always something wrong when I do one of these. And
I didn't want to tell you, but you spelled my name wrong.
What?
It's like a fun scavenger hunt.
Yeah, so the Boundaries as a Kindness workshop, for the purpose of it was to kind of intersect how boundaries can still be seen as a kindness. A lot of people think that establishing boundaries can be mean, or being forthcoming of what it is like not good. It could be rude or seen as rude. But for me, in my growth, establishing boundaries has always been a way to tell others how to help take care of me. And that's kind of the message that I was trying to portray, along with the intersection of how platonic touch can also be used as a healing method when it's done in a safe environment. Platonic touch specifically, this workshop was about, and that has also been another different modality that has helped me along in my. So those two things kind of intersected. Those both have been such a big part of my own inner healing that I wanted to bring that to the community, or bring it to a gathering so I can share that. Knowing how to establish boundaries and how to safely engage in platonic touch has been so empowering for me. But it's been one of my babies. I think it's been on my mind to do this workshop for the last 5 years. So to actually get to do it has been an honor. So thank you so much for everybody who was a part of that.
During the interaction, saying no to a hug was a challenge in and of itself, especially in that environment where you just felt so much love and you just wanted to be, appreciative of somebody, that interaction there. But when we got to the point where going to be okay, but still practice the no portion, and I was with Sophia and I asked her if I could touch her hair. I thought that was just an off the wall kind of request, and she's like, yeah, and so it touched her hair or whatever, and she came back with, can I touch your beard? I paused for a minute and I was like, that's it. It just felt weird for that request to happen, and I felt conflicted, and I was like, okay, I really do need to practice this saying no, because obviously I'm feeling something that I'm just not familiar with regularly, and I don't really engage platonic touch anywhere anyway. So it was like I actually had to think through that process, and then I felt really guilty because I said no to Sophia, and she came back with thank you for taking care of yourself, and I was like, I really did need to take care of myself in that moment. Like, I don't know what that feeling was in that moment. And so I was like, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and say no at this point. And then I was with Sasha, and Sasha had the same request. Can I touch your beard? And I was like, I told Sophia no, and I'm not. It's not the same feeling anymore. It's like, okay, that conflict was gone. And I looked at Sophia, and I was like, I felt really bad. Like, why did I say no in the first place? And I'm like, no, I'm not feeling like, no, I don't feel like yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You touch my beard, whatever. And I had to go back to Sophia. Like, I felt really bad because I told you no, and I didn't know what to do in that moment. And so it was really important for me to go through that training and understand that feeling process of those emotions of being able to say no when no is appropriate.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that, because it is in those intricacies that we can kind of figure out what our body reacts to. Sometimes it's not anything like we discussed during the workshop. It's not something about it. It might be something that person's maybe triggering you from a long time ago. Like, it's not a cognitive thing. Our brains don't always have the reasonings as to why they're reacting the way they are. But the goal of this workshop was to really just listen to your body and how it's reacting, and honor it. There was nothing at fault here for saying no or yes to somebody else. It is just about honoring, and how to take care of you is really what I wanted the message to be, and see how that manifests. Because you might be comfortable hugging somebody, and you might not be comfortable hugging someone else, but there shouldn't be guilt. The guilt comes from your brain saying like, well, why hug this person and this person? There might be some reason, some biases or something they got to work on, but this is not the point of that. There could be something there that you might want to address at a later time. But at this point, it's just about learning how your body reacts, because we don't spend a lot of time seeing how our body reacts a lot of the times. And like how I mentioned the workshop, our bodies are like antennas. So our bodies will react first to our stimulus, and then our mind starts creating the story to fit that narrative that our body is telling us. But I'm so glad that you got able to kind of see how the differences manifest in your own body. That makes me so happy that you were able to actually distinguish those. Thank you. Go ahead, Tabitha.
That was an interesting class for myself as well. It was really hard for me because part of it, so two things. I had to overcome my own darkness from the denial, the touch. Like, even though it was just practice, it felt so real in my head that a few times I legitimately teared up in my eyes and like cried, even though it was fake, because I struggle with self-esteem and being accepted. This has nothing to do with the other person. And so that's something I saw within myself that I needed to work on. And I also need to work on not expressing that, because no isn't enough. And saying thank you for taking care of yourself, like, instead of, well, I really need this to myself, like, can I really get a hug, because that is, then I'm trying to manipulate them, control the situation, and take power, like, of it. And, when they've already expressed that they don't want to. And so I need to accept that myself, because then I'm not allowing them to take care of themselves. And also, I perceive, like, I don't think about how there are others, like an individual expressed, they don't really ask for this stuff, but they will accept it. And because they don't think about physical interaction, and that they are perfectly comfortable most of the time without it. And so, even going up to them with your arms raised before you ask the question presents pressure on the individual to accept that hug before they even get the chance to be mindful of the situation and feel their emotions. It is so quick, it's so, you know, aggressive in that situation. You're not giving them the chance to express their no if they want to. And so that is something that I learned. And, these are things that I've been doing. I probably have noticed that sometimes, but unconsciously. So now I'm going to become mindful and work on that. And also remember that just because yes was said this moment, it doesn't mean like a week from now I can just run up and hug somebody because they may not be in a state of mind or comfortable. To still ask them that that is still a boundary. Their body is still theirs. Even if they said yes last week, it doesn't mean it's right now as well.
But I think sometimes, we just can get into social routines. We see a lot of people who just are comfortable with like that. But my goal with this wasn't, to say you can't go or approach somebody that you have a rapport with already with your hands open, because I still do that with the people that I've already had conversation and established that it is something that they're comfortable with. I still approach with an open hand, but that is because we had a conversation about it and how important it is, and they know that they can still say no. But I'm glad that you still received some knowledge out of that and you become a little bit more mindful of it.
Correct. I understand that with boundaries with people you're close to, but sometimes you have to remember that the individuals you're close to, let's say like Peter or the individual who spoke up, they may not say that. You may have that long-term relationship with it and you don't even know sometimes, like, because I didn't know that individual who spoke up about it felt that way. And then before they left, I did it again and I did the thing and I was like, I stopped and I was like, I'm sorry. May I have a hug? And they're like, thank you. Yes, you may. But I appreciate that appreciated that I noticed that because they don't really just want that hug, that, they
Yeah.
want that moment to be, do I want it now or not? Can
Yeah.
I feel like I have the choice to say no now? Because I didn't know, even after 2 gatherings, even knowing and talking to them and having long conversations with them. So that also brought that up to me is like, yes, we need to ask what our boundaries are with our people that we've even been with long term. Because sometimes people are such people pleasers that they just won't speak up.
Yeah, and that is something that I brought up at the gathering, and it is
Yes.
really the people that we've come up really comfortable with that is the hardest to say no to. So I'm grateful that you brought that up. Thank you. Go ahead, Allie.
So I think my favorite thing about yours was the mantra that you kind of taught, and I hope people take it as a mantra, and that is thank you for looking out for yourself. Now I'm thinking that's not the exact phrasing you used.
Thank you.
What was the exact phrasing?
Thank you
for taking care of yourself. Yes, my brain. Anyways, so thank you for taking care of yourself was like the greatest piece because it's an easy way to say that you acknowledge their it's a word that means sovereignty, personal sovereignty.
Autonomy?
Yes, that's the word. Autonomy. That you acknowledge their autonomy. And that's something that actually one of my students at Force Academy has brought up is kind of lacking in some of the ways that we express. So Force Academy has its own Jedi code that I think needs to be revamped. I didn't like how it was put together, but they wanted to do it that way. Fine. I kept telling them to use my Heartland code or whatever. Anyways, but like it doesn't have something in there to allow for your personal autonomy. The fact that you gave us something that is very much related to the Jedi path in the sense of we respect all life, which is one of the lines in the Skywalker code or alternative code, however you want to call that code. I appreciated that there was a way to say that without saying, without looking like you were, without being upset about it. Because even if you are upset, pushing that out there demonstrates that you are acknowledging that autonomy, that responsibility to yourself, the self-care, which is also a tenet of the Jedi Compass, that you acknowledge that they have that right. And I loved how you explained it during the workshop, that it is about self-care. I loved your workshop.
Thanks everybody. That means a lot to me. Like I said, this has kind of been like a little baby in my brain for a long time now. I kind of also expressed that I tend to be, the ambassador of hugs. So this is an area that has meant the world to me. Like showing care. I think that's part of my medicine as a healer. It comes out in that way. So I've also just want to make sure that there is that reciprocity or the consent and how it manifests, especially as a Jedi, navigating that space. So thank you. All right. Any other comments before we move on to the next one?
We're going to dote on Karina a little more because the next one is the fire ceremony.
Oh, oh man. Yeah, so the fire healing ceremony was, a love letter to the Jedi community as a broad love letter, because our IJF is just one gathering that occurred that weekend. There was another gathering occurring that weekend. There's been a couple that have been occurring. And I just really wanted to extend that, the healing energy that we have, especially around the fire, to start creating and nurturing some of these connections that we have with each other. As we were saying, like it takes a community. We're all growing together and we're all teaching each other. And it's always in these like intimate spaces where we actually get to show our authenticity and vulnerability. That is actually when a lot of people started releasing emotions, and we started sharing gratitude about being with each other, and seeing each other grow. Because a lot of that was that not just connecting to the broader Jedi community, but connecting to each other in that one space, with a lot of love. So thank you for everybody who also participated in that. I'm not sure if there's something you guys wanted to share about the insights that brought up.
So what I loved about yours was just you actually were, but you're good at ceremony. You really are, and you were able to bring everybody into a emotional space where we could just sit around the campfire and release things that we needed to release into the Force through the fire. This was also those raw moments where we got to see the kids culminate around somebody. We had a lot of emotions that occurred during this whole thing. People said things that maybe they didn't even expect themselves to say. Actually, later on, when we ended up doing, like, y'all weren't part of this conversation, but originally the forgiveness ceremony, we weren't going to do it. But between your ceremony, Karina, and the tea ceremony that we did, that kind of was like, well, we need another thing to bring it together since we've done 2 ceremonies. So we came up with the third one, which had originally been planned. We'll talk about that later. But just being able to bring that all into a space where people could release things and let it burn and go where it needed to go was absolutely beautiful. And I really hope a couple of other people chime in about how they experienced that.
Dan has his hand raised.
Okay, yeah. On that one, you were doing that in conjunction with other Jedi groups. What groups were those, for one?
Yeah, so the Jedi path workers were hosting their own retreat, I think in spring something. Kentucky?
It was in Arkansas. No, it was in Arkansas. It was in Arkansas.
Yeah,
because Arkansas is where all the mines are.
Yeah, so we coordinated with them. We set a time. Carlos from Tacho was also coordinated with us. So we were all started a fire at the same time with the intention of bringing healing together. I think next year I'm hoping maybe we could do it again, and we'll plan it a little bit ahead so that way we can get other participants in the community that can't make it.
We also tried to get people involved by posting a video she had pre-recorded. So maybe if we were lucky, some people watched that and lit their own candles.
I'm hoping.
It's a great video if you haven't watched it yet.
So basically, I was wondering if maybe we were FaceTiming with one of the groups as well. That might have been a nice touch as well.
Yeah, maybe.
And there's
just like online stuff always makes it weird because depending on where the location is, connection isn't always available.
True.
And we were surrounded by a lot of trees. I'm not even sure that would have worked.
And there's another bit of ceremony you can possibly add to that. Now we'll let you know that later on.
Yeah, no, I'd love to
carry on
later. Thank you so much for your help, Dan. Actually, you were a big part of that too. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Again, just let me know when you need it ready, and yeah.
Dan the fire starting man.
Well, I shouldn't be the next one after next year. Or shouldn't be the only one after next year.
So we've got a comment over here. It says, I was overjoyed to have seen the signs from the ancestors that were with us. Hey, Gabe, I'm going to just call on you and call you out.
Yes, well, I think it was actually the like I said, I was just reading the energies that were there at the campground, and the ancestors are part of our family. That was this whole thing about creating community. We can't forget the people who were there before us and the people who aren't with us or couldn't be with us. And that's why, like back then, it was the fire ceremony, connecting with the other Jedi gatherings. It was just also great to just connect with the people who couldn't be there either due to illness or finances or like missing the plane. Even though that they're not there physically, all these people are there spiritually. And that's one thing that I think we always need to remember.
Anyone else got any comments about the fire ceremony? So the next one was Council of Kingfisher, which Gabe and I had a ambitious idea, and Gabe reduced it because we didn't have time for the ambitious idea. In fact, Gabe and I talked about it later, and we think that at some future gathering, in order to really make this Council of Kingfisher thing work, it has to be the entire day. Has to be the entire day.
Yes, yeah.
Because it was incredibly ambitious, what we were thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was going to say,
You're like,
it was something that had a lot of merit.
Go ahead, Sasha.
So Gabe turned it into...
I was just saying it had a lot of merit, so I'd love to see it actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I think there's something really that says a lot about how you intake information and how you interpret it, and how each aspect can still be part of the whole. I think that was very cool.
So Gabe, you want to talk about how you altered this and just kind of go from there?
I think that kind of speaks to one of the other trials, the trial of patience, because you're kind of always having to change things and never quite sure where things are going to go, but somehow it always works out. So that's the thing, that it always does, and it surprises you, like, oh wow, that was a very cool exercise, or that was a cool learning, or like, I'm glad where this went. I'm never like disappointed with anything. So what we did is we changed it to where people were given packets of information, whether it's websites, codes, books, movies, and everybody actually was given a slightly different set of resources to draw inspiration from. And they would then use that information to create a definition of the Force. And each one would be just slightly different because of the sources used. And it's just testament to the diversity of ideas that are out there in the Jedi community, and how we all have a different idea of what the Force is. And what also adds to that complexity is our own lived experience and our own beliefs. And so that will kind of color our interpretations of things as well. There were some things in there that I just did not like, because it just did not ring true to me, but I had to remain true to the exercise, say, okay, but a person who wrote this is what they believe. And that was actually a very good exercise, because it reminds me that other people will think differently, or other people will process information differently. So I need to always remember to look at what another person is saying and be true to their lived experience and validate that. And it was just very exciting to hear how everybody was still coming up with somewhat similar definitions, but I think that's because of the community that we were in too. So it was just fascinating to see how all of these definitions came out. And the other addition to that is that I know Matt spoke to it earlier on having the elevator pitch. And yes, we had to be able to define the Force in about 2 minutes, because or basically the ride of a long elevator, because sometimes that's all the time you have with a person. And I love the fact that even when one of the groups was making it a very lengthy definition, I had to cut them off, because that's also what you would experience. Sometimes people just will tune out if you're not there quickly enough. So I thought it was a great exercise, and it was very true to our lived experience.
Yeah, so I do want to comment on that. Gabe's over here talking about how there were things in there that he didn't really agree with. I will tell you, I'm the one that came up with the packets. He was not aware of what was going to be in these packets. So it turned out I was not aware that even though he has had a long history in the community, he didn't know some of these documents I found that I've known about for, because I've been in the community for nearly 25 years. So I knew where to go and find resources, and I pulled them up, and it was funny because I was sitting there the whole time. At first, I did not plan on Gabe and I doing this together. And then for some reason, I just looked over at him and I was like, let's go over to that pod and sit on the stairs and let's do it ourselves. Because I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like we should. And we went over, and I was looking at Gabe. I was like, is this document in here? Because I want to say this. And we were looking and we didn't have the document. I was like, no, this is not the right packet. This shouldn't be our packet. Because I want to say this. And I can't. And like, he's sitting there like, what about this? I was like, I don't know. Because I don't want to quite say that. Because like, it was me trying to like, let's try to at least make as much as we can into our personal definitions instead of what they believed. It just, I don't know. It was interesting feeling that discomfort of I don't really want to say that. There's got to be a way that we can use what's here to bring it a little bit more closer to what's believed. But it was really fun, just me and him sitting there trying to come up with like, hey, we're some of the oldest members in this group. Probably the only other person that, like, if you really wanted close to old guard, we should have been like, hey, Amy, be part of our team too.
Well, that's a good point that you brought up, because Tatiana was in our group, and it was really fun to see the younger aspect of what they received. Because we kind of missed the point of the packets. It was just like stuff we could reference, but not that we were supposed to use them as the definition. But Tatiana came up with, like, because I asked her, I'm like, what do you see? Like, you're here with a bunch of Jedi. What do you see? And she's like, well, I see a bunch of people that are come together for love, like, or from love. Like, this is the community that is built on love. And I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Anyone else want to talk about this? Please don't let the three of us be the only ones to talk.
I still say that it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some, like, you alluded to during the session that it was supposed to be a reference to the Council of Nicaea, I believe it's called, and sort of the canonization of the Christian doctrine. I mean, I like the idea of having sort of some core tenets that are, that we come together and say, yes, this is what we believe. And, yes, there's differences, there's variations amongst us, and we don't all agree on everything, but these are the, 4 or 5 things that we all hold to be true. And, I mean, I see a lot of value in that, and I would love to sit down as a community.
Admittedly, you're aware that the community has that document, right?
Well, yes.
No, it's legitimately, it was all voted on. The Jedi Compass is a voted upon document.
I did not know that it had been voted on. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Everybody voted on every single tenet in 2022.
Wow.
So
okay.
Revamped.
That is news to me. I did not know that.
Yep.
That's amazing.
There were a total of 54 participants in at least in that setup. So yes,
it is fantastic. I had no idea.
But what I will say is the goal of the Council of Kingfisher was, the lofty goal that we had was actually to see how people come together with with these packets, and then to try to show that we need to be diplomatic. That was what we were driving home with this workshop, and that's why everybody had different information. Just like every church during the Council of Nicaea who came in would have different information. And then you were supposed to argue in favor of this or in favor of that. That's why I said it was a very lofty goal, and you really can't do it unless it's over the course of an entire day. Because first you have to form your little churches, quote unquote.
Right.
And then come together as your own little team. Okay, then you guys argue it first. And you're like, okay, well, look, I really hate Phantom Menace. So that's gone. It's not part of it. Like, those were kind of the conversations I was hoping would happen. We were hoping would happen. But then, like I said, Gabe looked at it. He's like, no, that's not going to work. And I was like, you're probably right.
Initially, I don't think our group was entirely clear that we had to use specifically those references that we were given. But we looked at them and, okay, we used a bit of them if we could, but we went on our own tangent and explained our different points of view in that group and came up with what we did.
See, I like that too. It didn't quite work out the way we had envisioned it, but that also was a lot of information we threw at you.
Yeah, it was a little less role play. Because the other way it would have been more role play, but it was a little less role play, but it was actually getting in and using our own ideas with each other.
We also had new members that showed up for the day pass for this, or not new members, new people that this was their first time experiencing a Jedi gathering. and they were able to have and engage in this workshop, and they also I remember them enjoying it and having the different conversations about it. And it is such a different aspect, right? Because as a newcomer, it is like kind of an exploratory of like, well, what do these people believe the force is, and what do they believe the force is, and who do I resonate with, and do I need to join an order yet while I go exploring? Because that was my experience when I first found the community. So it was really interesting to kind of see it or be reminded of what it was like.
Okay, so the next one is Jedi in Action. I gotta explain it. This one was inspired by National Youth Leadership Forum. Karina sat there for like months on end. Hallie, what are you trying to do with this? I don't understand. And trust me, I get it, because like me trying to put together how this would look was I don't know if y'all know this. I'm sure Gabe does, because Gabe has to translate for me often. My brain is very disorganized and all over the place. If Karina hasn't seen it yet, I know Gabe has. So me trying to put this together, but I knew exactly what I was trying to do. So I put together 3 different scenarios, and I ended up, we were going to do one of the 2, or we were going to do 2 of them, but we ended up with only 2 groups. And I was like, you know what? Throw away the one that's going to be incredibly hard. I actually have a new plan for that one. Throw that one away for now. And we're just going to focus on this one. And it was based on a true story. So I told them, hey, okay, so here's what you do. We're going to go into our little groups. You guys are person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And you're going to each get a piece of the scenario, or you might get Orem, Lipsum, Orem. Nathan's going to correct me if he walks in here, but it's one of those 2. It's basically the gibberish language. And it's actually not gibberish. Turns out that it says something. We don't know. It was funny. But
yeah, Matt kept having problems trying to read it, and I said, it's written that way on purpose.
It's written, so it doesn't.
Yeah, so it was basically like just to keep everybody from knowing who had information, so that it looked like, oh, they have something written on there, except that, oh, now you don't know if they've got an actual piece of the scenario or they don't. And it was based on this idea of, you're in a forum, which we're an online community. Even though we as at IJF want to bring us more offline, we are still an online community, and we get a lot of information. I know stories and stories of things that have gone on in the community. So I took one of those stories and I gave them actual, like, I changed names, but I gave them actual emails exchanges between myself and a couple of other people about somebody that was in a Saudi prison. The scenario was beautiful because, like, they all got these different things and they had to respond. And what I loved about it was how much it reads like a scam, guys. If you didn't know, it reads like a scam. Because this was like back 2009, 2010, I don't remember exactly when. It looks like an Arab prince or a Nigerian prince or a Saudi prince trying to scam you, but it was a true story. And what I loved was watching the objectivity that went into this, the consideration for everybody in the group to make sure, okay, let's just make sure that our people are not getting scammed, like blocking the thread, everything. And then to see them all get to a point where they wanted to help this person because they started realizing it might really be true. To watch them do some of the same steps that me and this other team, which was orchestrated by somebody else. His name was Richard Strange. He actually orchestrated the whole thing. I was just a minor player in that, though apparently I did more than I thought I did, because when I went to go back and look at these emails, turns out I did a lot more than I thought. I just remembered calling a guy. Apparently I was more involved. But to see them work towards trying to figure out how to help this guy in this prison, kind of like how we did, like contacting an embassy, etc. It was the most impressive thing that I've seen. And that, we were talking earlier about like growth that we've seen in the community. That is growth from the community, because at first this guy was ignored several times, but to see that our community now actually did something to help and recognize that it might be a true story was overwhelming for me. You guys really impressed me. You made me proud to be part of this community. I wanted to tear up. I'm still wanting to tear up now. I'm going to hold it in. I kind of want to hear more from you guys, because I don't think I really gave you guys enough time to tell me how you felt about the workshop. I know some of you said some stuff, but yeah,
For me, I really enjoyed it once I figured out what was going on, because it really got me to think out of the box and kind of figure out like the situation and what should or ought a double, a Jedi do, WWJD. And it was really nice to do it as a group, because in healthcare, there's a lot of hierarchy and you have to do things a certain way. And it was kind of interesting to see how it would work on a forum as well. I've never been a part of a forum. I've never done any of that. So I'm like, I have no idea, no clue. If this was just me, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So the role I received was Jedi Knight of the council or whatever. And what I would do would be given to me by the council, but any information that I received, I gave to the council because they put a thing out on the forum stating if anybody receives information, this is who to contact, right? And so like in the beginning, the Matthew was our apprentice. He saw the post, I think is how it was. Depending on who the apprentice was, would determine what would happen. But he saw that and instantly he's like, okay, I want to talk to everybody. He's like, okay, let's get down to the bottom of this. Didn't even hesitate. He looked at his thing and then bam, that's what it was. And so it was a really good exercise, and I would love to see something very similar happen again, because it helped me with understanding ways to problem solve and understanding how potentially my problem solving thought process could put me in danger in situations like that, or other people in danger.
I think it would be really cool to do a similar exercise with the youth, with the kids, and maybe have it updated a little bit, like on Discord or something like that. I don't know if we would want to do it live in person or have it done online, but I think that it would be really beneficial to some of the younger people who were there at the gathering to go through an exercise similar to this, maybe with a lower stakes conundrum or situation, but to have them sort of work through a similar situation and see how it would play out with them and sort of help guide them to, I guess, address issues and prepare them for when they get older and become adult members of the community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I know there are some things that we are going to be working with the youth. Gabe, is there anything you want to mention about that?
I mean, before you mention that, I just want to offer, you guys ever do a summer thing or any get together? I volunteer and I would get my certificates renewed for that kind of stuff, because I would feel having my CPR, first aid, all of that renewed would be good for that. So if we keep doing that, let me know, because I want to make sure I have those on board for keeping everybody safe.
That's great. I actually just had my CPR, first aid, AED certification renewed yesterday for my job. So I'm clear with everything from infants to adults. But in terms of the youth, we are working on a curriculum basically for the youth and young adults. And we are making quite a lot of progress. So we can actually, I believe Allie and I were wanting, and Eli also has been great at helping design a lot of that curriculum. And we are wanting to actually implement it as soon as possible, because we have enough material now that we can start having our youth going through. So I am just very pleased. And a lot of this material, I think, can actually just translate over to adults as well, because some of it's geared more towards being more multimedia, more interactive. And that is just also how some adults process information and learn. So I feel like this would actually, some of them would have worked very well at our gathering. I'm just very pleased that we have this curriculum now.
We actually considered doing one of them, but after talking with Karina and some of the other people on the committee, we realized that the workshops we already had were pretty translatable for our youth. So we just included them. But that was something that we had considered, and we definitely want to do Zoom classes with that. And also, to your point, Sasha, there was one, and I had talked with Amy and Maggie, and I was like, what inspired the idea for this was actually a situation that I got into, immobilized, and Maggie and Amy were part of it. and part of the whole story. And Amy said, the one that inspired the story that inspired this, you could probably translate that for the kids because it is less, it's not as high stakes, and it would just be like we could find a way to do it and see if there's stuff that we can do. Yeah, no, I love that idea. So Sasha, you and Amy are aligned on that concept.
And I do think that it would be an interesting, because I liked how we did it live, but I think for some people it was a little confusing because we were asked to imagine being in an online space, but IRL. And maybe if we were to set up like a faux Discord channel or something
I was thinking
like
even
that.
a PowerPoint like that has video of like what you're saying, like of the Discord chat, so people have a visual aid.
Okay, so I could give you the scenario, but somebody else would have to design that because that's outside of my wheelhouse, my expertise, or my skills, my skill sets. That's outside of my skill set. But I could help design what the scenario is, and then you could translate that. So if somebody could do that, that'd be pretty cool.
I apologize, Sasha, but yes, I would gladly, like I could do, we have Canva, we have, I even have a 3D printer, so I could even print craft stuff out. But like would be totally willing to help with visual aids or anything, like exactly what Sasha was mentioning. I completely agree with that.
I love what it did to help us look at our own biases as well. Because I was like right away already biased that, oh, this is probably a scam. We also went through the reasonings like, why it might not be, because you don't want to just totally just dismiss something out of hand without at least exploring it a little bit. Because I've seen people get scammed, but realizing after the whole thing, realizing it was on our server, it was on something that like we had. It's not some random thing coming in that you might get in an email, and that this is something on your own threads that comes in. So it gave you reason to actually look into it.
Well, on that, we've got the open chats in Facebook or whatever, where we've had those well, not necessarily scam, but the spam, the pornography that's populated some of those, the different elements like that have been like, hey, we need to shut this down right away. I mean, it's still an ongoing thing. We're not necessarily experiencing something like this or, legitimate scams trying to press upon us, but there's like selling things that have populated our chat spaces, or even like taking over or mirroring profiles that have gone onto the websites as well. So my cousin's account just got hacked and taken over by a hacker. So that's a thing that could happen right now in our in our chat forums that we are currently using. There's still a possibility of seeing some of these things out there, but
like this is kind of something that I wondered about. Did you guys think to take it more seriously because I designed it? Because maybe Allie wouldn't have given you a gotcha, or you all were like, well,
for me, I'm silly. I use the WWJD because I grew up Christian. And so instead of what would Jesus do, what would a Jedi do? So I really sit down for a moment. I'm like, okay, even if it is a scam, it doesn't matter. What ought I do if it were not? Bam, that's what put me into that kind of direction. Not necessarily because of you making it, but because of my mantra of like, what would a Jedi do in this situation?
I love that.
Similarly to that, I was like, I've seen enough text messages or scam mail or scam whatever that have come across that I just, have gotten into the habit of ignoring a lot of things that come across. But if there's something that is a legitimate, an effort was made to communicate with, then I'm going to explore it until the telltale signs of this is a scam come to fruition. And when that happens, then I can just like, okay, I know what's going on here. I can just delete this conversation like it never happened. Until I'm like 100% positive, I have an interest in exploring what exactly is taking place, the validity of the concern that is being expressed, whatever. I look into that kind of information and try to make sure, just making sure that, I mean, the fact that you wrote it up probably perked a little bit, but yeah, why would we be doing this at a gathering? Why would we be exploring scams. I have that in me, like, hey, this sounds like a scam, but is what is the truth behind what is being expressed here? And so I wanted to explore that. So yeah.
So I will say this: please do not use that as your measure. Don't use me as your measuring stick, because I have 3 different scenarios that I crafted, and one of them legit is a scam. So,
so one thing that I wanted to mention, I don't know if it was a sociology class or what when I was in college, but there was a scenario that they brought up about if you see somebody drowning and you're wearing the most expensive outfit, that you could ever afford. Somebody gave it to you, like suit, tie, best dress, $500 pure leather shoes or whatever, and you see this individual drowning in a lake next to you. And there are other people around, but so what would you do? And so each person it goes around and asks them. And like when they got to me, I was like, I jump in the pool and I swim to them. And well, first, if I'm wearing a jacket, I'm going to throw the jacket off because that's going to make it harder for me to swim. But if I'm just in like a nice dress and shoes, whatever, I might kick my shoes off because I can swim. And then I'd go over there and pull them out. Other individuals would state like, well, maybe somebody else will do it. I don't want to ruin my clothes, or, I'm going to make sure I take everything off, put my suitcase down and go and help them. But then, okay, maybe they're dead now, is what the teacher would talk about. And so he brought up how there's this idea in culture or society that, well, maybe somebody else will do it. You'll see something going on or somebody else is called, like you see a car accident, somebody else is called about it, somebody's taking care of it, so I'm not going to. And then you get into that mentality and then everybody does it and then nobody does anything about it. And then what if it's true? And now that individual has suffered and passed on or, the situation. So I really enjoyed that class. And so that's what helped my thought process with this scenario, as well as my Jedi teachings.
We're going to give Dan that. And then I've got one more question.
When you asked, did we start to think about this because Allie wrote this up? Well, I think there was a little bit of that in there. But what really was the turning point with us, with our group, is at some point we put it out to the group. Has anybody ever seen one of these scams before or anything? We kind of started getting feedback from everybody in the group. And one of the people said, well, this also looks like a trafficking possibility from their experience. So we were relying basically on our own experiences and throwing that into the mix. That was kind of like the community on the message board responding on the topic, not engaging with the poster since we had locked them down. And we're getting all sorts of input from the community to research this as the moderator and the council member. Yeah, there might have been a little bit of, Allie wrote this up, so there's got to be something to it. But we eventually got around to, we answered our own question on that there was a possibility that this could be real, because somebody just brought up a valid point that this also can scream of not just a scam, but this could scream of somebody really needing help, and they've seen human trafficking issues develop in this way.
I loved that there was a lot of reliance on people's personal experiences when we were looking at this, because at one point, one of our day pass people came in and he was like, at the very last one. He was at the very last one and he goes, where did you say this was? It's in Riyadh.
Oh yeah, and he had his people out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was like, he legit knew somebody in Mecca. And he's like, I know somebody in Mecca. Maybe we can try to do this, because like by this point you had found out it was a legit story because your team actually put it out on the board. And then I had to write in, guys, they threw me a curveball. I didn't expect that I would have to write in stuff, but I totally had to pull out pieces of paper and write in pieces of the story so that they could do something with it at that point. So I was glad that I was able to go back to all of your groups, or back to your group to figure it out, because Maggie was your facilitator, and Gabe, Maggie and Gabe were your facilitators. And I was like, okay, so now you guys have gotten interesting, and now I have to do something about that. let me go in and see what's going on. And I had to start writing in for you guys things. By that point, like, it was true. You knew it was true. Oh, wow. So now let's see what we can do. And then here comes this day pass person who hasn't been part of the scenario at all. And he's like, I know somebody in Mecca, and they actually work with the government. And it was relying on their real life situation and that gives you information about each other. Hey, if I ever see somebody that's going through something in Saudi Arabia and it's a government problem, maybe we could reach out to this person and see if they can reach out to their friend in Mecca and see if they can give us any insight or help us do something. So, like, it was really good to see that there was that reliance.
We had also advised, like, individuals not to go too far on some things, like if we thought it was human trafficking, that, because if it is something like that, you can get involved with some very nasty people that make you disappear.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and you know what? You
Matthew
guys didn't know this, but Peter in our group was like, listen here, if something happens to me, y'all know I got involved. And he was telling that the whole time. It was great.
It really hit home for me, the whole trafficking thing that I noticed that's possible, because I've had to deal with cases of that. And so, like, I had people that with all good intentions, they wanted to jump in and like try to help the person. And I was like, whoa, hold up, because these people can make you disappear and you don't want to do that. So just stomp the brakes a little bit. Let's figure out what we can do to help this person the best way possible and keep you safe as well. I don't think a lot of people have had like a lot of that training. And so I think it was a good exercise for people to start kind of thinking, like, if you ever see this, what are some of the things you can do, but also keep yourself safe.
Right, but they can
that's
also,
one
now
thing I felt
that
too.
group, that group now knows, and anybody listening on here, if there's a human trafficking case, maybe I can go talk to Maggie, see what insight she's got.
Yeah,
so,
come talk to me.
Because now they know that you have some training in that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the last workshop that was let's start out with first what happened at the tea ceremony. Apparently I broke out in that song, and Gabe said, and I didn't connect this, Gabe, until later on that you told me this. He said, I kind of felt like I heard gather at the river. I didn't connect that, Gabe, until after the gathering that you had said that. So it was funny because it was almost like everything was aligning. We should do this because we had talked about doing the ceremony, and we actually, because somebody said they wanted to do a workshop, we cut this ceremony originally. And it was something that just Gabe and I were talking about. We cut it because we wanted to give that other person an opportunity to do a workshop. Well, now we were missing a workshop, so we just went back forward with the idea, because the second night there was the fire ceremony, and I was like, you know what, we should probably do that other ceremony just to kind of tie it together. So we talked it over, and we're like, hey, Sophia's going to get her mystic. Let's put her to work, because now she has her materials to do this part of the ceremony in real life. That was actually in Sophia's training, that when she was going to do a virtual version of the labyrinth, she would have a bowl in one hand and a candlestick in the other. That's why she was given those as part of her gift for becoming a mystic. I kind of looked at Gabe and I was like, even though this one's at the river or at the lake, I kind of wanted to have him kind of be in charge of like opening it up, because he's good at setting the tone. I don't know what to tell you. Gabe's good at setting the tone. So I'm going to let Gabe talk a little bit more about that ceremony.
Well, I think the forgiveness ceremony is also another good thing to do, because since our whole focus was on teamwork and community and family, that there are things that happen that kind of sever or hinder or just bend a little those relationships that we build. And it's through the act of forgiveness that people are brought together. There are these things that hold us back even from our events that happen in our past, that prevent us from our full actualization. That's why it's funny that Gather at the River immediately in my head. And because I know you, and I'm like, oh, this is the song that you're going to sing. I just knew it. But I think that's just also, I think, because I opened myself up to all the spirits, all the energies that was there. And I could see, this is the song that's needed. There's something about this song that's needed. And it may not even have been for all of the audience or the participants, but it may be needed for just you, Allie, as well. And so I was just very open to saying that, okay, this is what needs to be done. And I think it's also just to showcase your singing ability, because people were shocked. And I knew you could sing, but nobody else did. And I forgot that nobody else did. So that's why I'm like, okay, that's why it was like second nature to me. Oh, of course you can sing this. So why don't you? And that place again had all the different elements, had all the different energies, the earth, fire, wind, water, and then just the spirit of love that was in the entire community. It was very beautiful, again, just to see that we are able to create a space that people can be vulnerable. People can show us who they really are. And some of those boundaries that we create are just like torn away. I just love that that ceremony was basically the culmination, the end of the gathering.
So I do want to say this, for anyone who thought that singing that song was my idea, it was not. I did argue that maybe I shouldn't because it might trigger people, because it is a very Christian song. Gabe backed me up on this. I did say that. Both Sophia and Gabe insisted that I should because like Gabe said, he felt like that was there. And then Sophia was actually the first one to bring it up because I was like, I would just like to be able to read off a couple of lines in here. And then Sophia's like, just sing. And I'm like, what? And then they were just kind of both. And I was like, okay, if they're both saying this, I'm not going to find it. So, but I will say, if I did trigger you with that song, I apologize. But I did argue, and I went with my brother and my sister, my spiritual brother and sister, and I gave in to them, and I guess maybe the spirits. But that song, so that you understand how important it is to me, that song has been with me since before the community. It's not one that I did. It's actually by Point of Grace, and it has. If you have followed me in the forums as long as some of the people have, and I know most of you haven't, Gabe has, my signature block usually includes "Gather at the River," so that song is very important to me. And but with that and the Hawaiian tradition of Ho'oponopono, that's kind of where the idea for this workshop came from in the first place. So I thought I'd just explain a little bit more as to why that song was important to me, but also to let you know that if you were triggered, I apologize.
As one of the individuals on that other side, you have absolutely no reason to apologize. Any triggers or anything in relation to that is something that we need to work on ourselves. So as an individual who, as you call it, was triggered, rather than allowing the emotional trauma from my religious past to control that moment for me and take away what you were trying to provide, I stepped away for a moment, grounded myself. I stopped, thought, okay, what is the real meaning behind this? Why am I feeling this feeling? Let's check it out, feel it, let it go. Let that bleep go. And then I integrated myself back into the moment. So it is not your place to apologize. I appreciate the sentiment that you do feel slightly like care for the people who do have trouble with that, but that is not on you. And I think the best thing that you did for that was to give what people I feel say a trigger warning previously that this was going to be a religious song. And so that gave me a chance to be like, okay, hey, prepare yourself because I know that emotion's going to arise. And so when it did, I was able to stop, take myself away from those echoes, from that trauma, and pull myself back into that moment of what was the force actually trying to provide me, rather than closing myself off to it because of what has hurt me previously. And that's not your work. That is my work for myself. So thank you for your apologies, but they are not needed.
As also, I was one of those people that was triggered. I also it is something, but I've learned that triggers to me are just moments that I can meet myself where I need to. The more the reason why I really wanted to have the discussion is the mystic side, right? Because I want to incorporate that we are not specifically a Christian organization, but we do each mystic uses their own religion in their journey and their transformation. I don't have a problem that it was a Christian song. I love that we get to share our religions and how we explore those philosophies or ideas. I more wanted to discuss the aspect that it's not something that we push on others. It is specifically your journey, and that's why you were sharing it with us. But that does not mean that IJF is a Christian organization.
Absolutely. In fact, he's Peruvian. Well, okay, actually, he's got, it's more nuanced with Gabe, but
Yeah.
There's more nuance with gays.
Yes. We are all drawing from our own traditions, from our own faith journeys. Absolutely.
That's mainly what I wanted to point out is that each mystic goes on their own journey, makes their own pathway, and shares what they can. That's their own medicine, is how I like to place it. So thank you, Ellie, for sharing your beautiful voice. Like Tabitha said, yeah, you might have triggered us, but it was our journey to then see what the message was. But I mainly just wanted to clarify because I know there can be some confusion when people start sharing their religion, whether that is something that's being pushed on them. And I just want to clarify that that is not the case. That is just how each mystic explores their spirituality and shares it with us as well, which here at IJF, we do like to explore different pathways and we are open to that.
Do you remember your mandala three gatherings ago that you had all of us color a little bit in it? And then it is like that. We are all connected and we chose all our different colors, and each time it'll probably be different, and each time it'll, yes, I was trying to find mine and I couldn't find it because I was going to bring it up, but right here is a perfect moment to talk about this. Is like, she draws a lot from her religious aspect. And like for me, I have a lot of pagan and Wiccan kind of traditions. And then Sasha brings his stuff in, and then Gabe and you as well, Karina. We all bring it in, and then we just need to take what we want from it and what works for us. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It's just we all work together and we are this little mandala, this geometrical shape that all comes together, So, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm tangenting now.
I love that she had it right there.
I actually brought it with to the Jedi Gathering. It came with all my other supplies, just in case we needed another workshop.
That's awesome. So does anybody want to talk about their experience after we introduced the forgiveness part, or after we kind of brought it to start up? Like, how did you feel about actually being able to ask or give forgiveness itself?
I loved it. I thought it was a great experience. My approach was a little, I guess, unorthodox. I was sort of forgiving a past version of myself, which, I don't know, it seemed a little weird to me afterwards, but in the moment it seemed right. So, but
I thought you were going to talk about how you use specific language when you came up.
I did. Look, I like humor, okay?
It was good. I loved it. I did.
The first thing that I said to everyone when I got up there was, "Forgive me, Father, for I sinned." But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good experience. I loved the fact that one of you sort of took the place of the person, and we were able to talk directly to that person that we were either giving forgiveness to or receiving forgiveness from. I don't know. I'm sure there's a name for it, but that was good therapy. That was good medicine. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I liked that each of you kind of had your own approach to the ceremonial cleansing aspect of it, and everybody sort of brought their own little what's the word I'm looking for? Their own little flair to the way that they presented. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, for anyone that wasn't aware, little pine branch that Gabe had, it was from that site. Like, we were there and he's like, "I'm just gonna go pick this piece up," and he grabbed it.
I saw them by the river.
That's where you got it.
Yeah, right next to the nest or eggs of what were probably snakes.
Okay, so that one for me was interesting because first the trigger part, and it was so my religious trauma is in relation to a lot of stuff growing up. My mother, like even me, the moment when it's like, okay, who do you want to forgive, or who do you feel you need to forgive? I don't remember what the question exactly was, but it really took me a long time because I don't feel like I hold anything against a lot of people. Like, I'm that people pleaser. Like, I just don't. And then I thought about it for a minute, and then my diagnosis is, and I know I say this a lot, but it helps me understand myself, is borderline personality disorder. But I am a quiet borderline. Anybody who understands a quiet borderline, everything is an attack at ourselves in the end. And so we harm ourselves when we're upset. We feel somebody doesn't like us, or we're feeling abandonment. We won't eat. We won't spend time with people. We won't do that. So we end up hurting ourselves in the end. So I started thinking, I was like, okay, well, the force is telling me I need to forgive myself. And I'm like, why do I need to forgive myself? And then it's like, and so this is why I'm going after Sasha, because I needed to forgive my past self for one big decision that I did make that I still hold on to. And I've done DBT for it, but I've never actually forgiven myself for it. And so when I got up there, I was like, okay, I need to forgive myself. And so Allie was me, and it literally was me. I was visually, I don't know if it's called hallucination or what, but I was staring directly at her, but it was me. And I didn't even think about what the words were coming out. Everything was autopilot. It was just bam. I didn't even think of what I needed to apologize for until I got up there. And it just came out. It happened. And then when it came to the point of the water, that Sash, or whatever you call it, the black thing, has been with me since childhood. Since right after my mother passed away is when I've had that. That has been with me through my entire life, since when everything started to happen. Right after my mom passed away, everything went wrong in my life. That's when I started to develop my disorder, and then eventually the choice I made that I apologized for, that was with me as well, like literally in the room. And so I was like, okay, this has been with me for my journey forever, and it's going to continue to be for my journey until it is no longer. So the water for forgiveness, I'm going to put it on this sash, because that energy is in that. It's been with me forever, and it's been holding on to that as well as I am. So I put it in the water, and then I drape it over myself, and it's just dripping down my entire body. And like, I could just literally feel a weight lifted, and it like came out of, it was weird. It felt like it came out of the top of my head and like out of my throat, but it was like flowing down and directly out. Like I could just feel this force and energy flowing out while the situation or the thing continued. That was my journey with the forgiveness ceremony. I was not expecting it. I think it was amazing. I really think it was needed, and didn't even know it. Did not even know it.
So I do have to say, I didn't understand what you were going to do with that. I was trying to take it out of your hands because I thought you were trying to pass it off to somebody when you were pulling it off. So when you looked at me, you're like, I'm like, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I loved how you did that. And like when I saw it, I was like, that's beautiful. Like I never would have thought somebody would come up with something like, here, let me carry this with me through my veil. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. I thought that's so cool. It was a beautiful moment.
There was a reason that I chose Sophia as well, is because like I'm forgiving myself for like not loving myself, not being true to myself. And Sophia has been going through, and I know a lot of us have seen this journey of them becoming who they are, the self-awareness, the self-knowledge, the wisdom of opening up. And who cares about everybody else? I am going to be who I need to be, and I'm going to love my flippin' self. And so I was like, I need Sophia's water, because I need to also get that energy that they so strongly push out. Like, I don't know the right word, emanate. They emanate this transitional energy of like, just be yourself, love yourself, and just own it. Like, own it and let it go. And like, so I was like, okay, I'm taking your water and I'm putting it on me, because you have shown me that if you can do it, if you can go through all of the bull leaps that you've gone through in your life, and now you are still bleeping standing here and glowing, literally glowing. And the first person to see me when I got to, at least I feel like when I first got there, and they're like, girl, dang, bleep, you look good. And I was like, what? I was like, what, me? And I was just like, the love. And so I legit chose that person. No offense, Gabe. No offense in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sure you
I'm
understand what I
actually
mean by saying
really
that.
glad that you explained to us how you chose, because that's something I sat there and I was like, I wonder how some of these people are choosing who they're choosing. And I love that so many people chose Sophia, and this was like her first ceremony that she was doing, and like that just I was beaming with pride because here she just got it, and yet there was so much trust demonstrated in her ability. I was just like, wow, I'm so happy about this. And but also to hear the perspective of why I chose who I chose. That's beautiful. Some
I was
love.
scared to say that, so that was very reassuring. I appreciate that.
Well, and for me, like, didn't feel like Gabe wasn't a part of, like, I chose Gabe for a different role. It wasn't an option that I was given. Like, Sophia was my surrogate, Allie was my mystic, but Gabe was my witness. I saw Gabe as the person witnessing the forgiveness, and like he held as important a role, I felt like, as Allie and Sophia did in that ceremony. I don't know, like I deliberately chose the roles that I chose, and I included everybody in that, even if I didn't explicitly say that.
I feel like some of you picked the people close. Like I was like, I wonder what our energies align with. Is it because you see us as being able to be your person? So like with Tabitha, I don't even know why. Like I responded back to you. And I was like sitting there.
It was perfect.
And I'm like, I sat there and I was like, where are these words coming from?
Same. It felt like an energy was flowing through me. I didn't even know what I was going to apologize for. And like, I guess I can share for everybody, but I guess I've been holding on to a lot of guilt and some toxic shame of not being able to be the mother for my biological daughter, considering I am now a mother now to a daughter who is the same age. And so it's slightly different now with that. And I guess that is what, and I just was talking to myself, like, and the words come out, it's like, it's okay. It is okay. And I like was literally like, what the heck is coming out of my mouth, yo?
And the same thing was with
I wish
me.
it was
I was
recorded.
like, I was sitting there and I was like, I'm supposed to be here kind of silent, but I'm still talking. Like, why am I talking? But I was like, but I don't feel like the words are wrong.
No.
Okay.
It was
So
like
I was just like,
you were channeling the words that my unconscious needed to hear, and the force was flowing through you. You were me. But that is how, like, the force is so beautiful because we are so connected. Like, everything is one. Like, that mantra I say is, like, if you love another, you love yourself. And if you love yourself, you love the force, because we all are one and we are the force. And so at that moment, the part of you that was me inside of you came up, like, inside out, like that little person came to your mind and like push the button and is like, hey, here's what you need to hear. This is the part of you that's not inside of you right now. Hey, I need to chime in. Okay, I'm going to go back to being a part of Allie again.
And then Sasha, for you to pick Gabe as your witness, I mean, Gabe's a great witness. If I had gone through this ceremony, I don't actually know if I would have used Gabe as my witness or as my mystic. He definitely would have been one of the two. I do love how he is able to bear witness himself. I watched him as you two were talking. I was like, wow, he's got that very good stoic witness face where he's not giving you anything more than what you paint on his face. Now, I don't know if you had that as Tabitha kind of said, that hallucination of it being the person that you were talking to, but I felt like his face would be able to portray that. I don't know. I don't know how you felt about it, but I did feel that way. You want to?
Yes, it's again, it's all about reading the energy, and I can just feel what is needed, and so there's a lot of just channeling of what is essential at that point. So but I do try to not input my own feelings as well, because again, it's not about me; it's about the other person.
I also want to chime in that I think that Allie falling into the water a few times was kind of on purpose by the force, because you were taking on a lot of energy. You were taking a lot of this stuff from people, and like you might not necessarily know this, but you need to let that go. And so the force is like, okay, here, go into the water, let this go really quick through your feet. We're just gonna bam, okay, good. All right, we're good again. You're fine. Let all of this go so you don't hold on to it later. And like how with Lacey, when she took the energy from the individual who had an emotional time, she took that energy in and she didn't know how to get rid of it. And she was holding on to that. And she's like, I don't know why. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't understand, because you took from them what they were feeling emotionally, because that energy is not created or destroyed, it's only transferred, and even emotions are energy. And so she had to let that go. And I literally feel like you falling into the water a few times was like the force or one of the ancestors like pushing you in, like, hey, let's release some of this toxic, energy, this strong energy, so you don't have to worry about it later. You don't have to put the physical or mental energy into letting it go. We're just going to help you really quick. But that was me. I don't know if anybody else felt that way.
No, that's something that we were talking about at the fire.
Ellie literally said,
Karina
"No,
was
I feel
there.
fine."
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, yeah, because you were better.
Yeah, that's what she said. Because like Gabe was like, we should probably next time if we're gonna do something like this, we should center ourselves first and then center ourselves after. And I just laughed and I said I was at the water, so I was like, I feel like, and then Karina was the one that was like, yeah, you were at the water. That's your element. So, and definitely water is my element. To Gabe's unfortunate. Gabe's not a fan of water. I'm proud of you for getting out on the lake. I really am. Got in a canoe with his husband. It was great.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I have something to add, and I'm not against it being recorded if that's okay about this. Do you remember how we saw the praying mantis?
Yes.
And how it came back? I just want to mention, if anybody's into symbolism, just look into that quickly. As a praying mantis is like a divine messenger from God, or as I would feel, the force. And its symbolism is to, they talk about to be more mindful of the choices that you're making and to confirm that these choices are congruent with your journey. And it's just a symbol of stillness and calmness, patience, awareness, and it's a symbol that from a prophet or whatever, they're a seer. So that's all I'm going to add. If you're into symbolism, kind of think about how that guy kept coming back in that area while we were doing that. It's almost like a symbol to me that we are making choices together, and it is being seen by the force or by God, and they want us to know that.
I love that. I didn't even think to go and look at the symbolism for that. Maybe we should look at what symbolism of snake eggs are. Assuming that's what they were. They might have been turtle eggs. I don't know.
It's a sign to be careful.
That is true, actually, about the snake eggs. There were snake eggs, and then there were turtle eggs. So the turtle eggs were closer to the area where we were canoeing, and the snake eggs were the ones that were by the ceremony. And yeah, like he says, it's a symbol to be careful and to be conscious of your journey, like watch where you're stepping, because something new that's dangerous could be in your journey. And so that's also interesting to me as well, because we were in a forgiveness ceremony, and then also with the praying mantis. So do what you or chew on those words, as can't think of the other words to say, but that symbolism means a lot to me personally. And the leaves falling during, what was it, fire ceremony, telling me that the ancestors were there with us. That one was also awesome.
Can I just say that the praying mantis kind of like dancing on Church's finger, like really made my day too. I just really thought that was kind of cool.
I think that was the end of the journey. Afterwards, we just kind of got together, continued to spend more time together, and we shared the gratitude compliments that we had, and we were able to thank a couple people that showed a lot of their kindness and volunteered to help throughout the weekend. Again, thank you everybody for being or joining the discussion. This this whole weekend couldn't have been possible without everybody's individual beautiful energy. Everybody brought something, everybody taught something, and I feel like everybody learned a little bit of something. Um, but thank you. I love you all. I hope that I'll see you again next year. That is really what I look forward to every year, is to see you all again in person, to give you all hugs, and to see where you've grown. I feel, and I said it there, that I feel we are a family, and we just continue to see each other grow and evolve. So again, all of you are amazing. May the force be with you. Hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day.